News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian. And to all our Lepidopteran listeners out there,
Yes.
Number one, I would like to say I'm impressed that you understand the English language. Number two, I apologize in advance. And number three, I wish you an exciting conclusion to National Moth Week.
Yes.
Oh, boy. All right. You know, he's really been milking this thing out. Max has been filling in the Nation of Jake, and you've made a whole week out of this, right, Max?
I assume the title of David Lee Moth.
Awesome. I was wondering if you had that in your bag of tricks today.
That's what lepidoptery is. So that's
Yes,
what
it's moths.
Hannibal, what's his face, was doing.
That's
Yes.
Buffalo Bill.
Yes,
Okay.
Buffalo Bill was a...
Lepidopteran lover.
Yes, he was a Lepidopteran amateur. Yes.
Max, Allan, you've probably seen these around town. I was at a sandwich place here in the Mid-South, and I saw a moth that looked exactly like the Star Trek insignia. The yellow.
Yes.
It had a cross thing. What was that thing called, Max? I think I showed you a picture of it. It was
I
like
never
that.
got to classify it.
If folks, if you're out there and you know anything about moths, there is a moth. It's yellow and black. It is cool looking, and it looks just like the classic Star Trek insignia. So, but boy, if you've been out there, you know, and I will say this, Max, I like moths. I'm not out to kill. I have nothing against moths. They're kind of fun. I don't want them eating the clothes or anything, but I mean, they serve a benefit, right, Allan? I mean.
Well, they have a lot of benefits. Unfortunately for the Sphinx moth that delivered a load of children to my tomato plants this week, they have let's say they have greatly enriched the life of my pet turtle.
Okay, well, here we go. You know, the circle of life. Anyway, hey, that was a good one, Max. And this is one that I think people can weigh in on. We all have opinions about moths, I believe. So if you want to weigh in and give us your opinions of moths, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there. And actually, Allan, we after they stop over there, they need to go over to the News Talk 98.9, the Roar Facebook page, and check out the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. And with that in mind, we finally have the elusive Lana Candella coming in from Royal Retreat.
Yeah.
That's interesting because we've been wanting to get her on the show for a while.
Absolutely.
Busy lady. So she's checking in the second hour of the show. Indeed. That's going to be good. If you go to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, you will notice on the Great Moments in Building History, this is good. This is another one of these topics we've loosely discussed here and there, but we're going to dive deep into the is this correct? The Eisenhower Interstate Highway System, or is it called the Eisenhower Express?
Well, it's generally referred to as the Eisenhower Project.
Okay, the Eisenhower Project is basically interstates.
Interstate bridges, infrastructure, that type of thing. It's, it is honestly a world-changing great moments in building history.
I mean, I don't even know what would our country look like without interstates? If we just had little 2-lane roads still? Or
I can answer that, and I'm going to wait until we get to that segment.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more along the lines of think of what life would be like without it. So let's see, Allan. Okay, we've got we need to get to our must-have item of the week at some point because we skipped it last week. We were so busy with everything else. We also skipped your Allan's Week in Review, which sounds like a lot of what you were doing the week before, right?
Hasn't changed much in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Been pretty busy.
And we got more here. I'm not going to over tease. I got more notes here, and it's going to unfold organically as it should. So, but Allan, before we get to, I'm sorry. Here is one. This is going to be a biggie, Allan. So we are going to talk. We're going to talk about things to think about when planning a room addition. And we're not talking, basically,
boy, yeah.
that's a big topic. And
we're
talking, we want to make a distinction, folks. We're not talking about building like a deck or anything. We're talking about enclosed living space that you are going to, and get a permit too. We're going to say that right out of the gate.
Don't permits and inspections are very important.
But there's a lot to say, so that's actually something we're going to get to sooner than later. So we've got quite a bit to get to. But before we do any of those things, Allan, we have to. It's time to announce we have a new sponsor for the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention.
Okay,
and
awesome.
If you're new to Tool Talk Radio, let me explain. In addition to running this enterprise, we run the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, and we're partnered up this year with all the Cumulus stations. All of our sister stations are going to be represented at the convention, and we have businesses that are actually going to be sponsoring the convention, and we want to welcome aboard Brussels Bonsai, Allan, America's largest bonsai nursery. They're in Olive Branch, and you're a patron of these guys, right?
They are not far from my house. You are correct.
Now, they're going to be set up. They're going to bring bonsais to the convention. They're going to have a promotion booth. They're actually going to do workshops and things to show you about bonsais. But, Allan, I got to be honest. My experience with bonsais is watching the Karate Kid movie with Mr. Miyagi teaching Daniel's son.
Yeah.
Max, you've got a bonsai, right? So
His name is Soshiro.
Max has this thing of naming everything. He names his car. He names his plant. So, but Allan, what? Okay, you said bonsai refers to a technique of group. Well, what is bonsai mean actually?
It is actually the creation of a living picture box, if you will.
Talk to me.
So here's what we're doing. We're going to miniaturize and create a natural scene.
Oh.
So the idea is not that you just got a short, stumpy little tree in a pot.
Right.
What you want to do is create a piece of living artwork. So you have techniques like root washing, so you can make it look like a tree growing on the side of a cliff. Or you can take a small-leafed plant and make it look like a replica of a much larger tree. So one of my favorite items.
That's pretty cool. I'm already thinking. Okay, go ahead.
You can wire. There's wiring techniques and everything. And one of my favorite plants to work with was a cranberry bush, because you could make them look like great big trees if you set them back at a distance.
That's cool, and they just look neat too. And
that's the fun.
And it's sort of like a living work of art. So that's what you're saying. So we're really stoked about having Brussels Bonsai on board. So if you want to visit them, and they're going to be on the show probably in a few weeks, so you guys can talk bonsai, go to 8125 Center Hill Road in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Or you can give them a call at 800-582-2593. And if you're a business that would like to get involved with the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, it's a really fun and unique promotion opportunity for you. Get in touch with me. You can call me directly at 901-921-7105. And we'll be talking about that more. But welcome aboard Brussels Bonsai.
Oh, yes.
Pretty cool. All right, Allan, we're going to get right into this. When we come back, we're going to talk all about building a room addition.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
There's an exposed wire above the bathtub as well.
Oh, yeah, shock wire. I call it that because if you take a shower and you touch the wire, you die.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Can we get sued for that, Allan? Thanks, Max.
Well, at least he told you what was going to happen.
I mean, there's a disclaimer, right? So, and welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. And our pal Max over there behind the glass.
And if you experience any technical difficulties today, it's because I touched shock wire.
Yeah,
there you go.
He likes to keep one by the control board to keep him alert. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. After you check in over there, actually do this in reverse. Check in at the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Look at the posts we've made, like the page and share the page, and then scoot over to the Royal Retreat, to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and check out the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. Naturally, Max's camera is turned off, Allan, which, whatever. I've given up on that.
It's aimed for our upcoming guest.
Yeah. Okay, good. Hey, Allan, this is going to be good. We've all been involved in this. I've been involved in this in my own home. I'm getting ready to get involved in a project like this in the next few weeks. But we're talking about building a room addition, and there's a lot of things to consider. We're all for that can-do spirit of let's expand our home. Let's make it better. But there's a lot to consider. The first thing right out of the gate, we just want to make a distinction. We are talking about enclosed living space. We are talking about. We're not talking about a deck or a patio cover or something.
Heated
some of
and
those,
cooled.
Right. Some of those you don't even need a permit for that. Right out of the gate, though, we are saying don't even think about doing this without a permit.
Yes.
You might think you're going to get away with something. You might think, who's going to know? They're going to know. Wait till you go to try to sell your house and you've got this whole,
Yes.
So, hey, Allan, I want to say something practical right out of the gate, though. So, what I was going to say is you really got to consider your neighborhood. If you live in a neighborhood and, maybe the houses are little 3-bedroom small houses or something, you might want to think twice about adding like 2,500 square feet on the back of your home because you may not get your money back when it's time to resell. That violates the first rule of real estate. So think about that. Talk to a realtor, before you do that. So.
Well, you also need to look at your ordinances as to what can you build.
Good, yeah,
in your area or neighborhood, or you're going to get a visit from code enforcement. And this goes to everybody anywhere within the sound of our voice, that somebody out there has rules. How close to the edge can you get? Where are your power lines? Where are the water lines? Where are the gas lines?
Right.
So before you break out that sledgehammer and the slide rule and get started, you've got a little investigating to do and at least some rough drawings to do to make sure you know where you're going. You got to have a plan to do this.
What I was going to say, too, is one thing I don't want to leave out of this discussion is the human emotion factor. There is a lot of emotion involved with doing a room. For one thing, it's exciting. I mean, it can be. But what I'm saying is...
It's exciting day one.
Right.
Day 5, there is no more excitement.
You mean day 89 or something. But
oh goodness.
What I was going to say though is right out of the gate, you're making a good point. Is don't walk out into your backyard or to the side of your home and go, man, imagine if we had this, and you start thinking of extra bit. Find out what parameters you have first. Don't sit there and daydream and fall in love with the idea of adding 4 bedrooms on the back of your home if you're not even allowed to do it. So find out the rules first and then start planning, because you're just going to be heartbroken, and then that's when
code enforcement is there for a reason.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, because how would you like to buy a house that somebody didn't get a permit on and they just added whatever they want? I feel like I kind of live in
I got so many of those stories. We do not have enough time today for those cautionary tales.
And here's the other thing. My experience, Allan, and I'd be curious. You deal with the permitting people a lot more than I do, but I've never had any problem with them. They're usually pretty helpful. I mean, and they're not there to make your life miserable. They're there to make sure that it's built properly, right? I mean, so
let's drop back to my position of 30 years of stupid.
Right.
The only time I have ever had a problem with code enforcement people is when you made a unilateral decision, or somebody did 30 years ago, and they didn't know about it. There were no inspections. There were no this. There was no that. I've been involved in facilities that built entire parking lots and didn't tell anybody.
Right.
And it's 30 years later, and you're down in front of the board going, I was in high school when they did this. I have no idea, but we have this huge parking lot, and we got to figure it out.
Right.
I mean, that sounds crazy, but it's actually true. And this can even go all the way down to before you cut down that great big tree that's in the way. Mm-hmm. That tree might belong to code enforcement.
Well, okay, now explain that, because that's interesting. So.
Well, a lot of people get in trouble with their HOAs or code enforcement or the neighborhood association. There are different groups that control or at least have some input in what you do to their neighborhood.
Even down to your trees, huh?
Even down to the trees and the bushes, because some places don't allow and in Memphis, I'm going to point this out as a huge point of contention from the 60s and 70s, was every landscaper in the world wanted to put those nice bushy trees so they would hide those unsightly power lines.
I feel like we're kind of paying the price for some of that right now.
You think?
Yeah.
And now we've got all these trees and stuff that were, and Joe, when you show up on the property, whether it's a home or a business, and you look down the property line, and there is a tree planted every 10 feet,
right,
sticking in the power lines, and we wonder why we keep losing power every time we have a big storm.
Right.
So there are a lot of rules now about where you can put stuff, and other rules about how you can get rid of it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because you can't just go out there and chop down a 40-foot tree.
Nope.
Because that bad boy is going across the yard, if you're lucky, into the street.
Exactly. So, hey, Allan, I'm sitting here looking at my notes. Another thing because this is sort of right out of the gate. You know, we're talking about like I said, I think about the human emotions because we did a room addition at our first house I ever built. We almost doubled the size of the house with room additions, you could say. But it's there's things that you would never think are important that they're sort of written in stone. Like you don't violate. Like there's a setbacks. Like I live on a place where setbacks are a real issue. Can you tell people what a setback is?
Well,
it's
it is exactly what it sounds like. You have to set so much property back so that you can build or not overbuild.
Right.
AKA, you can't build right up next to the sidewalk.
Right.
You can't build underneath those power lines. You can't build over what might be a septic tank.
Well, it's also like if you I live on sort of a busy corner, Allan, and I can't build anything within 40 feet of that road.
Yes.
And when you're standing in your yard and you're like 40 feet, it looks pretty far away, but you can't. And so there's that whole area that is kind of unusable for building,
and that is yard,
and that's a setback. That's what it is. And there's reasons for them. I mean. And it has to do, like you said, with what might be underneath there. And you start digging, you might dig up the neighborhood power lines or some. So
better than that, you might tap right on into that sewer.
Yeah. But that's another one of those things to think about. So setback. Here's another thing. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, like I said, I feel like the emotions are coming up again because I remember this distinctly, and it's sort of governed the way I do all my work at my house. Now, here's another thing. Whatever you think it's going to cost, add at least 20% onto it. What do you think?
Oh, I'd say double it.
At least.
Double it. Well, all right.
We're not trying to be cynical. We're just trying to be realistic. It's always more than you think
it's going to be. If you're not in the business, you have no idea how to estimate this.
Right.
Now, I walk over and people freak out when they're like, okay, well, we want to do this little thing right here. And this is actually an honest case from like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And looking at it from the outside looking in, this really does not look like a big job. It really doesn't. It's just a cute little part of the roof that looks like it's kind of sagged a little bit over the years.
Right.
And they asked me, so, well, what would somebody estimate this is going to cost? I'm looking at them, and I looked at just went $6,000.
Right.
And they freaked. Oh my God, all you got to do is, and I said, no, because when you open this soffit and you look underneath, you're going to find the decking is rotten to the roof. You're going to find the support boards coming across that are giving you the leverage for this. You're going to find those have weakened or failed. And we don't know how they were connected. I don't know how your house was built.
Right.
So until we open it and get in there, I'm going to tell you worst case scenario, I wouldn't be surprised if this cost you $6,000.
Man, you just led exactly into my next point, Allan. You're building a new structure today, and you're attaching it to something that was built 30 or 50 or 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't always, it's not always an easy connection, let's say.
Yeah.
There may be a generation gap going on. So there's other things to think about. So.
Well, the carpenters 50 years ago weren't planning on that addition.
Right.
They didn't leave you a spot.
Yeah. They didn't leave you a removable panel.
Maybe they left you shock wire in order to tease you 50 years down the line.
All right, that is far truer than you know.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot more to unpack here, Alan. And hey, if you've ever been involved in a room edition, we'd like to hear from you today too. So
bring up those horror stories.
Absolutely. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
There's something about an underdog that really inspires the unexceptional.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I feel inspired now. I don't know, man. Does that make me an exception? I don't. Actually, I don't really know what he was saying there, but I just like the way he says it. James Spader can read the phone book, and it's interesting. I don't know. And welcome back to whatever. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass.
We gotta have him replace you all on the show and just read the phone book.
Really?
Easiest 2 hours of my life.
If he'd do it, I think it's a
but
good
then
call.
the Avengers break in, they beat everybody up. It just goes poorly.
Okay.
That's fair.
So you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, give us a like, check out the action over there, and share the page. And then go over to the News Talk 98.9, the Roar Facebook page, and watch the show on the Royal Retreat Studio Cams.
We got a new logo, too. Looks nice and fancy.
Yeah, they look good, Alan. They've got the professional scroll. I probably should have shaved today. I don't know. I guess it's whatever. So, but you can see what the show looks like as it's happening in real time. So that's cool. And also later in the show, Alan, we're going to have Lana Candella from Royal Retreat is going to drop by. It's going to be nice to visit with her. So, and we got quite a bit to get to. We're not going to recap everything. In a minute, though, we are going to get back to our discussion about building room additions and things to think about when adding enclosed living space to your home. I'm making that distinction, Alan, because some people don't. A room addition could mean many things to some people. Before we get to that, you know who you want to get involved in that conversation. If you want involved in the project is our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration, because HVAC needs to be done correctly. Let's face it.
Yes, it does.
Boy, is he a busy guy these days. Getting Larry on the phone, not on the phone, but getting him interested in I don't know. I don't call him just a chit-chat anymore. It's like I usually just keep it down to business. He's a busy guy, so I don't know.
It's in the middle of a heat wave in the middle of summer in August, Joe.
It's like, hey, how's the grandkids? How's it? Whatever.
This poor man is booked.
But anyway, that's what you need when it comes to HVAC. Here's what I look for, Alan. I want first of all a very rock solid, reliable company.
Yes.
I want a company that deals with the latest technology, because let's face it, even technology from 20 years ago seems almost obsolete compared to what we got.
It is.
These systems are so much more efficient today, and the air that they're putting out is not only it's not only clean, but it actually cleans every surface that it lands on.
I think it'd be cool if they actually had like the Remy Halo system for your car AC. I'm not sure if that's possible.
There you go, Larry. That's your next call. I wonder if that is possible. So, yeah, there you go, Max.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I could hook you up a UVC.
You can pay me later, Larry.
Okay. So there you go. That's your call to action. But the Remy Halo system is revolutionary. It's as simple as it could be. It's one of those things where the best ideas are the simplest, but it's using the UV power of the sun to clean the air and create cleaning particulates that come out.
Does.
And the one thing you'll notice about that is there is just no smell. It's clean, and it's just fresh. So any area that's working with the Remy Halo system, it always has a clean, fresh smell. The other thing is HVAC systems require maintenance, and don't get scared by the word maintenance. It means you keep it clean, you change the filters, you keep an eye on things, and you also make sure it's positioned correctly. Yep. You make sure you're not banging into it with things up in the attic or whatever. So it's really just getting another pair of eyes on there, and that's why you want to have a company that will drop by every 6 months or a year to just check on it and make sure it's running at peak efficiency. We love Brown Refrigeration. We wholeheartedly endorse them. They are the best, and so give them a call. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their very easy-to-remember website, brownref.com. Oh, and I was getting a little emotional there because I was thinking about, folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about adding living space to your home, doing room additions, and right out of the gate, we had mentioned don't even think about doing this without a permit.
Right.
You have to get a permit for this. And that doesn't mean that you can't do some of the work yourself, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But Allan, as I recall, we did an addition at our house where basically it was one of those things where this was our first home. It was a little 2-bedroom house.
Right.
We added 1,500 square feet and basically, doubled the size of the house and made it a three-bedroom house. So, but with a big living area. And the one thing I remember, Allan, is the HVAC, there was a lot to consider with that. You don't just say, oh, okay, attach this, vent hose here and just push it. There's all sorts of things that go involved with moving air correctly and making sure the unit can handle it. We had to upgrade our unit, so. But,
you added a lot of square footage.
Yeah, we doubled it. So, and plus what we did is we made the house almost L-shaped after that. So, so it changes the whole,
Yes, the aerodynamic layout of your house changes drastically.
Yeah. So those are things to think about. You got to think about, because I know one thing that might be tempting is if, let's suppose you want to do an addition, you got to think about what the roof is going to look like on there. Not only for the sake of running things through the roof, like your vents and everything, but what about your roof lines? You can't just put you got to think about where water is going to go, how it's going to tie in, and you want a roof line that's not going to. I mean, there's some roof lines that are easier to maintain than others. Would you agree, Allan? You know what I mean? Like, you just want the water to go where it needs to go.
And thus you are. You're also getting into the pad, the landscaping, the water drainage, and water management.
Right.
And you really want to cause yourself an absolute nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get that roof right.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to have water or worse because you remember, we're in the Mid-South. So you've got all 4 seasons to consider. So you don't want to be creating an ice dam where there had never been one before because your addition has a different pitch to the roof and you didn't allocate for what's going to happen in February versus what happens in August.
I see that a lot. I see problems that are created simply because of a bad roof design. Like, they or it's like, okay, wait till a pile of leaves gathers in that one corner. Oh, yeah. Or wait till that one bead of caulk fails or something. It's like, you should have a streamlined, simple, and even if it means a little more work for you now, do it, because it's going to pay for itself later. So roof design is important.
I tell everybody, take your beating up front because you don't want to be fighting this for 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Allan, one other thing here I've got in my notes is one thing I was not good at, I will admit, I was guilty of this when we did our room addition, was I wasn't realistic in budgeting what my time is worth, you could say. I'm like, oh, I can frame that whole area in a weekend or something, which it took like 4 weeks or something like that. Yeah. And I remember, I was a lot younger then, but I remember that room addition, a lot of nights where I would be out there till midnight working on the thing, then get up for work the next morning. And I wouldn't want to do that, over again. But sometimes it's actually cheaper to just hire somebody. Because if you're missing work so you can work on your own home, well, that's sort of a bust. You know what I mean? So,
well, a lot also depends upon your comfort level, your tool bank level,
your skill.
Well, here is the thing. A lot of jobs are easy if you have the proper tool.
Yeah.
If you don't have the proper tool, yeah, I get worried.
Yeah.
Because what if you're trying to move plumbing?
Right.
What if Max brought up the wiring thing, and I have found the most bizarre and ridiculous things in walls having to do with wiring.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously, whoever did this 30 years ago didn't even know how to spell electrician, much less call one.
I'm glad that they didn't do my surgery. Just stuff all the stuff back in.
Just cram it in.
Well, they'd have left the sponges, the scissors, and probably a small hammer.
Right.
I have found I just think back of all of the walls I have opened up over the last 30 years.
Right.
The amount of tools, cans, lunches.
Oh, yeah.
Strange things that fell from above down into the wall. There's so much there, but the biggest thing I want to point out, do not get in a hurry to get this done.
Right.
Whatever your time frame is, and if you're thinking you're going to be done in 6 weeks, you're not.
No. Yeah.
I mean, let's just be horribly blunt. It never works out like that.
Right. Absolutely. So, and you mentioned something else, Allan. Let me just put it this way. Don't fall in love with your ideas. Be open-minded and flexible, because you may have, this is how it's going to be. It's you've got that set in your mind. Well, it may not work out that way. It may be better to do it a different way. And also, sometimes there's little things that you know how some people they fall in love with a certain idea, and that particular idea is going to cost them like $10,000. Well, if you changed one little bit of that, it might be $1,000 or something. You know what I mean?
Might save you $5,000. Yeah, easily.
Right. Yeah, because I think that's what I see more than anything with some of these types of projects. It's like you walk in and you're consulting with somebody, and they go, well, this is where this is going to go, and that's where this is going to. And then I've pointed out, in fact, the job I'm going to be starting here in a few weeks. We've rearranged a few things that I think I probably saved them $15,000 or $20,000 by simply repositioning a few things that And so I would say keep an open mind, and be flexible.
Well, and again, also keep an open mind that you're going to have time waiting on an inspector.
That's true. That's part of the time budget.
They are not sitting around at the office going, gee, I hope Joe calls me today.
Right.
They have got 6 weeks worth of work that they need to be done with by Friday.
Right.
So they are booked up. And the other thing I'm going to tell you is clean behind yourself, because nobody wants to get their time wasted.
Yeah. Now, Allan, we've given a lot of, it kind of sounds like doom and gloom, but we're going to close out our discussion with all the upsides of doing a room edition, because it is exciting and it's a cool thing to do. So we'll do that when we get back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You had paid the price for your lack of vision.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I want him doing my edition.
Yeah, that sounds like the last inspector that came to the project I was working on, Allan. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, give us a like, check out the posts we've made there, and share the page. And then after you've done that, go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, and you can watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. Don't do that if you're driving. Probably ought to make that distinction. You can watch it 24 hours a day, folks, so you don't have to do it right now.
And guess what? Bigfoot is real, and it comes in twins.
I don't even know what that means, but I'm sure it means something else. Okay. What? Max loves to distract me and whatever. So, okay. I don't know what that means, Allan, unless he's talking about our face or something.
I am.
Okay. Well, you could have done better than I expect snappier retorts from you, Max.
Yeah.
So, hey, Allan, before the break, we were discombobulated. We were talking about doing room additions on your home, basically adding to the living space in your home, which we've said, get permits by all means. We were kind of, I don't want to say doom and gloom. We're just trying to make sure you go into this with realistic expectations and realistic, a realistic mindset, a realistic budget of your time and everything. But I also want to talk about the upside, which is it is pretty darn exciting to do this. I can tell you the first home we ever built, we more or less doubled the size of the house. It was a lot of work, I'm not going to lie, but it was one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. It really helped our family. And Allan, when it came time to sell that house, we were in the right kind of neighborhood where this paid off, and we had a lot of equity in the home, and it was pretty darn exciting, man. I loved it. So
well, after yelling about gloom and doom and finding weird stuff and things going horribly wrong and all the things you need to think about, here's the great part.
Right.
If you were realistic, if you had a plan, if you've got your proper inspections and you've drawn out your paperwork, it is extremely satisfying to meet, and I tell everybody, set micro goals.
Right.
AKA, all right, Joe, you and I are framing the entire thing today. No, we're not.
No.
Well, you and I are going to get this one wall framed, and if we get it done in 3 hours, you know what? We might go for 2.
Right.
If it takes 6 hours because the dear people that built the house 100 years ago did not understand the word straight edge.
Or they didn't own a level.
And where the house is settled or things have changed. The trick is don't put too much pressure on yourself to accomplish a million things today.
Right.
That kind of reminds me, I know it's maybe not too dissimilar, but it reminds me of when I play music on the piano, like how I divide this piece into micro pieces, and I try to make sure that I get section 1 as down-packed as I possibly can before moving on to the next one.
That's probably a good comparison, Max.
I think that's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, because and some points, you know this, Allan, there's some parts of the project where you work on it, and it feels like you didn't accomplish anything because you're doing all the groundwork or you're doing all the prep stuff. And then there's those jobs where, like you said, framing's a good example. You start the day off with a pile of lumber, you end the day, and suddenly you've got 4 walls up there, and it really. So you just got to be prepared. Some things just don't. They're not as exciting as others.
Some of it's grit and grind, and some of it, as I like to call it, is the sexy work because something big happens.
Right.
And, when you're fighting with this, floor leveler, you've been leveling this floor now for 4 hours, and it still looks like floor.
Right.
But if you don't get this done when you frame out the wall, then it's not going to be straight and plumb and all those wonderful things. And I also tell people, you know what? Put a piece of cheese at the end of the maze.
Right.
All right, Joe, you and I are going to get this one wall framed in. And at the end of that, it's pizza time.
Right.
And now you
have a reward system.
Little motivations and micro goals.
Right.
Will actually get the job done shockingly fast.
The other thing for me, Allan, when we did our room addition, because we're talking 20-something years ago when I did this, we didn't have, YouTube wasn't really a thing. You couldn't just pull out, and we didn't have smartphones, so you couldn't just pull out your phone and get references for something or whatever. So we have so many more tools, and actually even things like pre-finished hardwood flooring. Putting a floor in is a piece of cake. If you do it correctly, and you talk about that wow factor, that's something, you get the floor down, that's the whole, that changes everything. So
that's when you throw the big pizza party.
Right. And so we are all about encouraging you to do this. We just want you to, we don't want you to get into hot water.
Yeah.
So
do it right. It's worth doing right. And it may be a pain and you may want to jump in and get started. But honestly, it's the old frog in the well story. Don't jump in till you've measured the well.
Right.
Make sure you're going to be able to get out of this project as well as getting into it.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of, budgeting and everything else. And if you have to wait a year to do it, wait a year instead of starting something and leaving it unfinished for 6 months.
No. You are so much better off.
Yeah,
so much better off. Don't do it if you're not going to finish it.
The other good thing, Alan, I'll say that as long as we're sunshine and daisies right now, hey, lumber is way easier to get now. If this was 2 years ago, I would say don't even get near this until COVID's over and everything else. But now, man, you go to the big box store, it's everywhere. You can, it's
a good time to do
So the materials
fence.
are there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of resources. So, and if you've ever been involved in a room addition, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear
pictures.
The ups and downs. Send pictures. Yeah, absolutely. So, hey Max, before we shift gears here, did you say we got a couple texts? So,
yes, we did.
I wonder if I can guess who they are. Were you going to tell us who they are?
I needn't even tell you. It was Agent 732.
Okay.
This was regards to thank you for commenting on National Moth Week. They said everyone talks big about moths until they step on a buck moth caterpillar.
Ouch. Ouch.
Wait, is that what it is?
Well, they sting. Yeah. They'll get your attention.
How big are those things?
They're big.
Are you talking about barefoot? I mean, if you step on your shoe,
you don't want to step, but you do not want to step on it barefoot.
Okay,
it's like stepping on a moving Lego.
Yeah. Yes,
I like moths. I don't want to hurt them.
Step. Well, it's one of these things. You just don't want to go barefoot across the patio in the rain.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, this is the end of National Moth Week.
The thrilling conclusion.
Which Max made a big fuss on that all week on Jake's show.
It's a Lepidopteran epic event.
Absolutely. What else did Agent 732 have to say?
I lived in a house that was over 100 years old and had the old used razor blade hole in the bathroom mirror. That hole led to nowhere, just into the wall. So there was a pile of old blades just under the house.
Oh yeah. Now, Allan, I wonder. There's probably a lot of listeners that have no clue what that is, but we've seen those homes. It is weird. The first time I saw it, I had no idea what I was looking at. But tell people what you're talking. The razor blade depository.
There was a time where the home would never change, nothing would ever happen to it, and we built some strange things into it.
Right.
I know of a house that had a wall piggy bank with no way of getting into the wall. The big thing is men's straight razors, when you clipped it in, not the disposables.
The kind that you cut your hand open with one
But where did you
move.
throw them away? Well, a lot of these old medicine cabinets had a slot in the back for you to drop it in, so it would just disappear into the wall.
Yeah, because some people go, why is there a slot? You might live in an old home and go, why is there a slot? And
why is that here? And it was for getting rid of something horrible. So that when you're remodeling, be extremely careful if you know something like that was there, because there may be 25 years of razor blades piled in there.
And it's interesting too, because I sort of understand the logic, because if you throw old razor blades into a garbage can or into a garbage bag, it could rip, it could, you could cut your hand. So this sort of makes sense, but it's just something we don't see anymore, because for one thing, razor blade technology is different. Nobody's really
totally
using that
changed it, but it's kind of weird. It's a little bit like a time capsule when you open some of these older homes up.
Right.
Quite literally, when you open up a wall of blades.
Yes.
Yeah. So Agent 732. Okay, well, that's interesting. So 100-year-old home. Yeah, that's right in the
house wall full of blades. Name of your next band.
Yep.
Okay. Well, shoot. Do we have time to get to this, Max? No, we don't. Probably. All right, never mind. Well, Allan, like I said, we would love to hear from people if they've done any room additions at their house. That's out there on the table.
Oh yeah,
all day. And you know what I see a lot too now. I guess one thing I'm wondering about, these outdoor kitchens that everybody are doing.
Ooh,
that's
I can't
one
wait
of those.
To do one of those this
That's
year.
one of those though. You do need permits, right? I mean, you're running gas line, electric, so it's not enclosed living space, but it kind of is.
Well, you also need to check with your HOA and your code enforcement for your area as to how far away something has to be and how high up the chimney needs to go.
Yeah, a lot of regulations. But anyway, hey, Allan, hour one of Tool Talk Radio's in the can, but hour two is coming up. And among other things, we're going to visit with our friends from the Royal Retreat, Lana, Candella.
Mm-hmm.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and some guests that we'll introduce momentarily, Allan. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, unless you're Agent 732. That guy tends to monopolize things a little bit, so we want new voices out there, Allan.
I don't know. I think he's got some pretty good moth news cooking.
He brings good things in. Yeah, so, but if you've got anything, and especially one thing we've got out on the table, we had a pretty in-depth conversation about room additions. If you've ever done like a really cool expansion to your home, or maybe you've got a warning tale for people out there, you know, we want to invite you to still weigh in on that. So.
Or you're thinking about it. Now is the perfect time to ask those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can still do that at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the action over there. And then after you've done that, we strongly encourage you to go over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams, which, Allan, they're looking, the picture's a lot better today.
It is.
Or at least now than it usually is, because we got now it's time to introduce our special guests, Allan.
We can.
So we've got KK Newsome, the Director of Nursing from Royal Retreat, and Lana Candella from Community Relations. And welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Hi out there.
Finally something to see on the camera.
Besides our old bald heads. Yeah.
Yeah. So, ladies, it's great to have you in. We talk about you every week.
Oh, thank you.
But, Allan, this is, now, you know, this is your wheelhouse. I feel like I better yield the floor to you. But, I mean, let's face it. We want to talk about, we've been talking about you for weeks, and we want to introduce people more to what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
So give everybody just kind of a quick overview of what is the Royal Retreat.
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Well, the Royal Retreat is an assisted living community where our residents
are like at home. One thing that we do is we're one big family, and so when you move your loved one in, the family and the resident becomes part of our family.
We call them royal jewels.
And
So that's a mindset that you want. I mean, right out of the gate, Allan. That's awesome.
The idea is, of course, of aging as a natural part of the world.
Yes.
Is, as I look at Joe and I go, you and I aren't
don't
getting
rub
any
it
younger.
in, Allan. So,
you and I aren't getting any younger.
Right.
And this is where we fit totally into the Tool family with the have a plan.
Right.
Especially since we're talking about a renovation to your home or room addition.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things you can do to help age in your own home. And then when you reach a point where you need some assistance, it's time to get some assistance.
Yeah.
Of the days of, I don't know, just kind of sitting in your little bungalow till the end of your days it's kind of gone because we live a lot longer now.
We do.
Yeah.
We have
Yes,
several
we do.
residents there in their 90s, and you wouldn't even know it because they still walk around. They still do a lot for themselves.
That's sort of the key, right? You got to
Right.
stay active and everything
Stay
like
active,
that. So.
stay moving.
I guess I'm curious, too. How do you, you've got to, it's assisted living. Well, everybody's got different needs and everything. You have to be very flexible, right? And you have to,
We do. We have different levels of care that we offer.
One thing when you're choosing an assisted living, it's when you're choosing an assisted living that you want to make sure that you're tired of cleaning around the house, the upkeep of the house, and so when you move into assisted living, it's time to enjoy, be waited on, and catered to. You've worked all your life. Now it's time for that.
I think a lot of parents are cheering right now. Yeah, take that. That's what we want. Well, it's true, right? And that's what you want for your parents.
It is.
Yeah.
And, there's so many things you can do, especially with the kitchen and the bathroom these days. And these are not bad ideas anyway, to have an extra handrail you make sure you're going to be safe getting in or out of the shower.
Yeah.
To have of a spot where you can lean to or put your hand down in the kitchen that's safe. And these are just everyday safety rules as you work around your home.
Yeah.
And, of course, as you age, the other thing is clutter being around your feet type of thing. So you want to make sure that you're giving yourself a walkway. You're giving yourself a chance to enjoy the fact that you don't have the mobility of a 16-year-old anymore.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm curious, though. You did say something right out of the gate. You're talking about it being a family and everything. So it sounds like there's a real culture over there that's would you say that is the top priority? I mean, and then everything else stems from that?
That is, because when it's very hard on a senior relocating to a community, but when they get over there and they do the tour, which I'd like to invite everyone to come and tour, that they see how everyone is very welcoming and how we all are just a big family. Another thing is we are a small enough community that it's not so big that you get lost, that you really know your name, we know who you are and the things that you like.
Individual care we focus on.
It's cool. So now what's your director of nursing, KK, but so what does your day-to-day life look like over at Royal Retreat? Or is it different every day?
It's different every day. It depends on who needs me and what needs to be done at the time. But I start my day off by hugging everybody.
Oh, you're a hugger. You look like a hugger.
I do.
Okay, yeah.
It's just a bunch of love over there. And everybody, like I said, we're one big happy family. And we focus on making our residents feel that way.
That's cool. I mean, we talk about business culture all the time, Al. I mean, what could be more important? So,
well, in a typical day, it's just like being at home. So you're going to get up in the morning. There is meal. And meal could be anything from a full breakfast to, just give me my cup of coffee and leave me alone.
Right.
Of their lunch, dinner, activities. And I'm going to point out, whether you're at home or a facility or an apartment or whatever, being active, having something to do every day is so important.
It is.
Absolutely. I mean, and it sounds like there's lots of activity over there. So, hey, before we get to the break, too, how do people get in touch with the Royal Retreat? So,
yes, please call Royal Retreat, ask for Lana, and my number is 901-644-2220. You can call me direct, and I'll be glad to take your call and answer any questions.
And if KK's there, she'll give you a big hug when you walk in.
Please be one of our royal jewels.
There you go. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I assure you, Lord Vader, my men are working as fast as they can.
Perhaps I can find new ways to motivate them.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Say what you will, that guy knew how to get a construction project.
That's why I don't work for my cousin anymore.
Absolutely. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out the action over there. And then after that, go, by all means, if ever there was a day to do that, Allan, go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams, because we actually have guests in the studio who are worth looking at finally, Allan, instead of us. We've got KK Newsome, who's the director of nursing at the Royal Retreat, and Lana Candella, who's community relations with the Royal Retreat. And we're visiting with you because, for one thing, we love what you do over there. We love these studio cams too. They are cool, Allan. I joke about it a lot. I question your choice of subjects to put on these cameras, but I
think that's Max's fault.
Yeah, but Allan, how did you hook up with the with the
during
Royal
the
Retreat?
original opening renovation of their facility, going through doing all the compliance, making sure doors open, equipment works.
That's
boilers
your
are in
thing.
good shape.
That's what you do.
Yep, that's what I do. And so we got everything all cranked up and going, and then They were looking at some ongoing projects, gardens and other such. So, in full disclosure, yes, I do have an interest at the Royal, so I go and help them with whatever they request of me.
Oh yeah,
so
oh,
that's a lot
cool.
of fun. We've had a lot of fun with the gardens.
Yeah,
we have, and the residents enjoy them so much.
Do they do the gardening too?
They don't do the gardening, but they like to come out there and like pull a strawberry and eat a fresh strawberry off the vine. So
eat the tomatoes,
and they love the tomatoes.
They do.
Yes.
Well, Allan, like you said, we're all getting older and everything, but I've seen situations where maybe people didn't plan ahead, or maybe they weren't in the best facility or something like that. And I can't think of anything more important for your parents. You want to make sure you're thinking ahead and doing this type, and the peace of mind. I just love the notion that you could walk into the Royal Retreat and the first thing KK is going to do is give your mom a hug. I mean, that's got to be encouraging. The culture that you've created over there is cool. So
thank you.
So are the residents? I guess I'm trying to get an image of what is it, the resident experience, because it sounds like it's a neighborhood almost rather than just assisted living or something. So it sounds like a community, like you said. So
it does. When a new resident comes in, we have a little welcoming crew that goes and greet the resident and make them feel welcome, because we know sometimes it could be scary going into a new place.
Yeah, no kidding. So, yeah.
And they make them feel welcome and make them feel at home, ask them if there's anything that they need.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. So when they come in the front door, we always have a welcoming basket for them of little things that they can utilize in their room. And we call them apartments because that's what they're doing, is they're also having an apartment that they can fix up just like at home. So when they walk in the door, they recognize all their food, all their furniture and pictures and different things that they have brought. So it's just like being at home.
Right.
Oh, that's cool. So it's personalized and everything.
Yes.
I don't know that it's that way every place, Allan, is it?
Not always. This particular facility is a bring your own furniture in. So it's your dresser, it's your bed, it's your pictures, it's your keepsakes. So it's much homier, much more comfortable. It's your TV, your easy chair. I know how picky I am about my chair. So, it's your chair, so you get to be there. The biggest thing is of the idea that you can ask questions. You can plan of if this is an immediate need. Well, it's an immediate need. You need to, you're shopping for this product. If it's not an immediate need, it's great to be able to ask some questions.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like as with any other aspect of this kind of industry, go take a look. The biggest thing is walk in the door, take a tour, ask some questions, and even though it's not an immediate need, it'll start like doing a room addition or anything else. You kind of get that plan. You kind of like, oh, okay, this is what they look like now.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, ladies. So if you were to, if if somebody calls in, they say, we want the tour. What are some parts that you're going to, what are you going to show them? Like, what are some highlights that you want to make sure they see? So.
Well, first of all, we want to welcome them to Royal Retreat, and we go and show them a model.
Okay.
We have two different models, one for a shared and one a private. And we show them the bathroom, which is set up for a handicap. So it's easy access into the shower, emergency pull cord. And then we go and we show them our library, which you can go in and sit down. We have a fireplace in there and sit down and read a book or take it to your room. And then we go to our living room. In our living room, we have a big screen TV where you can go in and watch movies with your friends. We have popcorn and Coke, and we have Bible study in that room as well. So then we go to the dining room, and our dining room is set up just like a restaurant. So you go and you sit at your table, and we serve you. When you're finished, we ask you if you would like more. We're there to please the resident, to please them and get them and they might not like the food that day, but we're going to get them something else that they do like. So then we go down the hall, and I show them a couple of different residents' rooms. And they actually get to speak with some of the residents that are already living there. Mm-hmm. And that way they tell the families how they like it and the things that they enjoy.
In the community.
It's cool. I mean, that's kind of sells itself, doesn't it? It's like, I mean, that speaks a lot. And so the residents are kind of happy to show everybody around.
They're very happy to talk to the families and very welcoming, like I said before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like suppose we want to make a plan. Is it ever too early to start thinking about this?
It's never too early. You just want to give me a call at 901-644-2220, and I'll be glad to set that time up for your convenience and to answer any questions you might have.
The library sounds cool. I think I'd like to go to that. So, yeah. Now, what about for families when they visit? It seems like that kind of it creates a more comfortable environment, if the grandkids are showing up and they want to hang out, right? I mean,
it does. Sometimes they have birthday parties for the residents in there, or different things. Celebrations that we have. We have birthday parties at the end of the month for everybody's birthday.
Oh, really? So it's a community birthday party. So.
Yes, and different activities. Like I said, Bible study every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And she just do different sitter-size doing every day, so to keep them active. And we just do different things that they like to do, crafts. We're having a 1920s party.
Yes.
That's going to be really exciting.
1920s?
Yes.
Everybody will be dressed up and having fun.
Yes.
We've got entertainment coming in that they'll love to get up and dance to.
So I kind of want to go here.
And we have violinists that come in once a week and play for the residents.
I don't know. This sounds pretty awesome to me, Allan. So, yeah. And they need to come in and get a tour. So, what about the website? Can they check out a website? So,
yes, they can check out our website.
Allan, you got the thing handy, or no? Pull up the address. So, but you know what else is cool? We talked about this. It's a pretty convenient location too. Because people are going to be driving there regularly, and
right.
It's nice to be able to get there quickly and everything.
Yeah, the website is royalretreatmemphis.com.
Yeah.
And the facility is very conveniently located between Germantown and Collierville, right on the Kirby Parkway cut across, right there, honestly, just a block off of 240.
Yeah.
So it is right there, very, very convenient to get to. I'm trying to think of honestly, it's just right off 385. It's 385 and Kirby. Yes. You're right there. You're literally between Germantown, right at the very, very beginning of Knight Arnold Road.
I know you can't pick favorites, but is there somebody that kind of stands out that's one of your residents that really just sort of brightens your day, or maybe makes, I don't know.
They all brighten our days. They do. Like I said, we love our residents.
We do.
And we love spending time with them. We also have a outside garden area where you can take a walk, and a screened-in porch where it's beautiful outside in the evenings. You can go sit outside in the screen porch, and the bugs won't get you.
I like that.
Joe's kind of his idea of roughing it is a small hotel.
Oh, I see.
Oh, wow.
So can I just come by and hang out? Because it sounds pretty fun.
Sure. You can come by anytime. Our doors are always open.
All right, that's what I'm going to do. One more time, ladies, how do we get in touch with the Royal Retreat?
Call Lana Candella at 901-644-2220.
Okay. Well, we sure love having you here, and like I said, we love these studio cams. Ditch added the logo at the bottom.
He
Allan,
did.
Did you notice that? It looks, I wish you didn't have to look at us, but looking at KK, anyway. Hey, but ladies, now you're welcome to stick around. We're gonna shift gears, and when we come back from the break, we're gonna do our great moments in building history. So it'll be fun to get your input.
Okay, sounds good.
You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I wonder if they're fraternal or identical tools.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Yeah, fraternal all the way.
I wanted to bring that jewel from back in the day.
I thought you buried that one, Max.
No,
okay.
I was waiting for the right moment.
All right. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and our special guests, Lana, Candella, and KK Newsome from Royal Retreat. We were visiting with them earlier. KK's on camera. She looks good. You look good, KK.
Thank you.
You were made to be on camera. So, Lana, you're not on camera, but you look good too. So
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we only have 3 cameras, so I guess
she threw Lana threw a KK under the camera bus as soon as we got here.
Right. So if you want to see what it looks like, go to the Royal Retreat studio cams at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, and then also we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there. Like the page and share it with your friends. So, hey, in a minute, we are going to shift gears. We're going to get to our great moments in building history. Before we do that, let's talk about a man who is he's busier than he has a right to be. I guess. Well, no, I guess he has a right to be busy. I mean, he provides a good business, and that is our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Well, Jay's been a busy guy with these storms going on, Allan. He's sort of, it's funny because Jay's specialty is the exterior protection of your home, from the roof to siding to gutters to windows. However, it's kind of like we were discussing this when we had him on last week. When you get a storm or something that rolls in, it becomes like MASH. It's like a triage unit. It's like, okay, siding and everything has kind of gone down the list. Now we're focused on getting these roofs back in shape. So, and
well, I got full disclosure. You and I both enjoy Jay Hill Roofing.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to tell you, these storms, I have been very thankful.
When you have a great roof on your house, man, you talk about peace of mind. And these are not just roofs, Al. These are roofing systems. He works with, he's a GAF Master Elite Installer. That's who they work with. That is their exclusive company, because GAF, like we say, designs roofing systems that when a Master Elite Installer installs them, they have a lifetime transferable warranty.
Indeed.
Which I still can't believe. That means you sell the house and it's still warranted.
Whoever buys my house next gets a lifetime warranty on the roof.
You talk about a selling point. So that is cool. The other great thing about Jay is a former insurance agent. And so in a situation like what we're dealing with here, or even, you may have, that's what our insurance is for. When there's damage that is covered, it's not an easy process, though. You never just call up your insurance company and say, oh, well, we've got this problem, and then they write you a big check and fix it. No, it's a process. You almost need, it's like a legal advocate that you need. And Jay is that advocate. He understands all the protocols, and this is really what he specializes in.
It is indeed.
He's uniquely qualified to help you with this situation. And as we say, he also deals with the whole exterior protection of your home, from gutters to siding to windows. He's a very dynamic personality as well. So call him just if you're bored. If you want to talk football or something, he's one of those guys. If you talk to him for more than 5 minutes, you'll realize you probably know the same people too, because he knows everybody in town. So get in touch with our buddy Jay Hill. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, Allan. I've been looking forward to this all day.
And now, great moments in building history.
Now, ladies, we would love for you to chime in if you have any thoughts about this. So, great moments in building history is just like it sounds. Every week we kind of shine a spotlight on something unique. It could be something from 5,000 years ago all the way up to a modern construction. And so, for Allan, this week, I want to make sure I call it right. It's called the Eisenhower Project, but it's basically the interstate highway system. That's what we're talking about.
It's a series of projects that came together. So, yeah.
It's got a long history, too. It was interrupted by world wars and things like that. And is it fair to say the concept of an interstate started in 1919? And why did I not save the guy's name? I can't remember who it was, but he grew up on a farm in Iowa, whoever he was. Great research. But He, in 1919, was noticing that if you're a farmer and you've got products and you've got, vegetables and everything, and you want to sell those anywhere,
right?
By the time you get them across these bumpy dirt roads and dusty fields and everything, they're spoiled. They're no good. It was really hurting them. And he envisioned, what if, now that we have this nifty new invention of the automobile, what if we had a more efficient road system and you could get products quickly and everything? That's where it started. It's interesting to me that's where it started, though.
That is where it started. And he had some buddies in the military.
Right.
And a poor little dejected mid-career lieutenant colonel got assigned the first transcontinental motor convoy.
Could you imagine being on? So we're going to get a group of cars and drive across. And
We're
these roads
try
really were.
to drive across America.
There wasn't pavement. There were, if you were lucky, the dirt was packed down and it wasn't flooded or whatever. And we're going to drive 2,000 miles because I think they went from Washington to San Francisco.
Yes, they were trying to go basically the I-40 route.
I don't even know how that's possible back then. How did they get through Denver?
It pert near wasn't. And the poor little lieutenant colonel was Dwight D. Eisenhower. So he was assigned this task, and he was not happy about it. Let's just put it that way. They tried to cover about 3,200 miles. They were trying to make it to San Francisco. They had 79 different types of vehicles.
Oh, I didn't know there was that many in this convoy.
They had cars, trucks. They had one of everything, just trying to get there. And they had about, I think, somewhere between 250 and 300 personnel trying to make this trip.
I do have a fundamental question, though, Allan. Okay, so they're doing this. They were trying to prove a point of this road. If we had improved roads, it would be better. To me, then part of the, we probably have politicians involved too, so they probably would have wanted to make the experience as miserable as possible for everybody, right? I mean, they probably, to really drive the point home, right? I mean, it sounds awful. It took like 6 weeks.
Well,
can you imagine that going across the country taking 6 weeks?
Well, and the biggest thing was every time they had a low-lying bridge, they had to turn the whole mess around because the trucks couldn't get under it.
They said they had to build bridges. They had to do repairs along the way.
They had to raise railway tracks. They had, so this was a colossal mess, and it all began because some guy went, I'd really like to be able to get my corn to the silo.
Right, right.
Now, fast forward a little bit. Let's get to World War II. And in World War II, one of the biggest things that Eisenhower was really running up against was Europe was just like America. They didn't have road systems.
Right.
You're trying to get from here to there, and there's these little windy roads with all these hedgerows, and it's beautiful, but it's horrifyingly inefficient.
Right, right. Well, except one country.
Except one country had realigned all of their roads of
the Autobahn. So,
right.
Can I talk about dramatic irony, ladies? So basically,
here we go.
We're talking about we're right in the time of D-Day and everything. And Eisenhower, it's interesting when you look at his life history. He was on this convoy of seeing inefficient roads and everything. And suddenly we need to defeat Germany, and they just so happen to have they had an awesome highway system. They had the Autobahn, and we used that to our advantage. That's how they got all of the logistics and all of the tanks and all down that road, and that's kind of how we won. We beat them at their own game, and then he was realizing how game changing it is to have an efficient road system. So he took that back to America.
So going back to 1920. And moving forward, we began kind of the new car nation. And also keep in mind, Henry Ford is in the dead center of all of this because
he wants better roads for sure. Yeah.
Wanted everybody to own a car.
Right.
He didn't want just rich people to own a car. He wanted everybody to have a Model T.
Right. Yeah.
And, well, if you're going to have a car, you got to have a way of getting from point A to point, so there were a lot of functions happening here, and a lot of your major systems like Chicago, which had great rail,
right,
was also kind of going, it'd work really good if we could get some trucks in here too. So there was a lot of momentum behind realigning how you could get from point A to point B.
It seems like this is a sort of an. I'll be honest. When I was doing the research, Alan, I thought the highway system was actually older than it is. I mean, it really, because of World War I, because of World War II, all these other interruptions, it really didn't even get underway until 1956. Correct. I mean, we still had roads and we still were going places.
Route
but
66
we didn't
was
have the
happening and everything,
expressways or anything. So, I mean, it's interesting. And then it said, spoiler, it said it was completed in 1992.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I mean,
yes.
Okay. So.
Wow.
That is very
Did you know that?
No.
It makes you think. I guess the biggest thing with this is what would the country be like if we didn't have it? I mean, that's the bigger thing.
I'm going to give you a movie that answered that question when we come back. I'm going to tease you with some trivia.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, so the Eisenhower Project, I guess if that's what we're calling it, is 40. So today we have 47,000 miles of interstate highway. That's the freeways, expressways, and all that. 4 million miles of roads in the United States. So that's interesting when you start adding that up. I mean,
if you tried to go from corner to corner, you're going to go Portland to Cabo San Lucas.
Right.
You're going to drive right at 3,400 miles.
Okay. And so you just start thinking, but it did change everything. I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons we're sort of a economic powerhouse. And
we can move goods and people. We can.
Yeah. And we got to be honest, not everybody benefit. I mean, there were some people that kind of got the short end of the stick here. As it's never just a clean, easy thing. These great moments in building history always have kind of a dark side. We'll definitely have to mention that. I mean, it's only fair.
There's a downside on occasion.
A downside, but overall, I'd have to say I think we benefited from it. But anyway, we'll unpack that when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You're making a plan while I'm being a man, just winging it.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Are you happy,
I mean,
Joe?
that's how I operate.
Are you happy you got some Aquabats?
Saturdays are never complete unless you can hear the Aquabats. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. The ladies here have no clue what we're talking about.
I know. They're staring at us like, what?
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and sticking around, our friends from the Royal Retreat, Lana, Candella, and KK Newsome. Did I spell that right? Or just, okay, whatever.
Just get close. She's all right.
That sounds like a nickname. Is that the...
It is. My name is Kawan.
I thought so. Okay. I'm not as dumb as I look, Allan. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we also invite you to watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. And, of course, before you end the day, make sure you drop by the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Give us a like, share the page, and join the Tool Talk Radio community. So, hey, Allan, before the break, in our Great Moments in Building History, we were discussing the Eisenhower Project, which is basically the interstate highway system in the United States. But, KK, off the air, you had something sort of interesting to say, and it just goes to show kids' brains work differently, don't they? So,
it was awesome.
What were you telling us?
As a child, I was saying I used to think that the roads were the ABCs because I was small, so I was learning to write my ABCs. And so when I would drive in the car, when I would ride with my mom in the car, she would go this way and that way, and I just thought that the roads were shaped like the ABCs.
Okay. Maybe your mom was just not a good driver.
that could be true.
Hey, it's as logical as anything else, Allan. I mean, so in other words, you're looking at a big map of the country and it's just all laid out.
And I just thought it was the ABCs. If you go up and look down, I thought the roadway was just the ABCs wrote across the world. But like I said, I was a kid, so I didn't know.
Did you have
I bet Q was confusing. That's all I got to say.
I'm just imagining what that car ride was like to school, man. So I think you and your mom have to talk. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I grew up in the country, so.
Oh, okay. All right. So she was out in the cornfield and doing whatever.
Yeah.
There's more to this story than we think. So, all right. So, hey, we were talking, basically the more interesting thing to do is imagine, a lot of times, Allan, in our great moments in building history, we get into the specifics of the construction techniques and all that. Now, there were some interesting things that they revolutionized to do with tunneling and all that.
Oh, yes.
We don't have to get into that now. Most people know how roads are built and everything. But Allan, it's more along the lines of the impact that it had and just the lifestyle change, what it did for commerce, everything.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to bring up is who killed Roger Rabbit?
I don't know. Is that the movie? You don't. Okay, go ahead.
Who killed Roger Rabbit? The plot of the movie was the fact they were going to build an interstate.
Was it? You said that. Okay, Allan, I think you're misguided. I don't like that movie. I thought it was kind of dumb. But did you think that was one of my favorite movies?
No,
okay,
because your favorite movie involves a poor little town off of Sulphur Springs that got forgotten because of the interstate.
Oh, Cars. Oh, okay. Do y'all watch Cars? That is one of my favorites.
Yes.
That is a legitimate masterpiece in my mind. Have you ever seen it, Lana?
I haven't.
Shame on you. Go back to the Royal Retreat, into the movie room, and put on Car. It's not just for kids. It is, honestly, that is a masterpiece.
But,
very entertaining and fun. So it's great, yeah.
So in
Second one, not so much.
All right, but Who Killed Roger Rabbit was the whole plot of the murder was the fact that this interstate was coming through. And there's a whole big, the super bad guy has a great whole diatribe about what the interstate was going to do.
Okay, now.
And Cars was the aftermath for a lot of these little country roads, including like Route 66.
Yeah.
Right.
I
It's
watched
like.
it several times.
Oh, that's really well illustrated in there too. So it's like you have the roads, they're little, twisting roads or whatever,
right.
and towns were built up around the notion that people are going to drive through our town and stop and tour and buy things. But that changed it right away when they brought the expressway. And the other thing, Allan, we have to just be honest about the history of this. Okay, if they're going to run a freeway through all this land. Let's face it, they're not going to go through the rich communities or whatever. They're usually going to go through the poor neighborhoods and things like that. And so, that's just the reality. They did, what do they call it, eminent domain? Or
Well, we had a fight right here in Memphis for over 40 years.
Talk to me. So.
Sam Cooper Boulevard.
Oh.
Was supposed to go right through where our zoo is.
Oh.
I-40.
I didn't know that. Is that why it just sort of stops right there?
There are 30 some odd years of lawsuits and recriminations and conspiracies and conspiracy theories because Memphis was the only spot at that time where we had a loop. They put the 240 loop in to go around the center of the city instead of plowing down the center of it with I-40.
That's interesting.
So,
I didn't know Sam Cooper was the. Nobody wants the zoo destroyed, right?
Right.
That wouldn't be good.
But but there were a lot of homes that were eminent domain. So Memphis is a huge part of this campaign to build Interstate 40 from coast to coast.
It's just one of those things. I don't know. It's like I can't imagine the world or the country without it. But yeah, during the construction, there must have been a lot of fights, I'm sure. So, if that's your home and suddenly now I hope they got paid.
Well, that's why the interstate system wasn't technically, the project was not stamped as done until 1992.
Yeah, isn't that something? You could say it started in 1919 and went to 1992.
Yeah, it's a very long-ranging project, but it gave us standardized roads. It gave us a speed limit. It gave us the trucking industry that we have across this country, which is an amazing ability to move goods and services.
Yeah.
You and I are always talking about the prices of lumber.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because lumber all over the world comes into our ports, and we get it to wherever it needs to be, especially after a huge natural
It's called you all here because I need
to... Max.
Sorry, the system was having troubles.
He leaned against the console, but okay, go ahead. Hey, but I would suggest, I'm a big YouTube fan. It's another interesting rabbit hole to go down and learn about how the interstate system was created, and the history is it's fascinating. Lots of interesting details, and it's always fun to learn things that you didn't know. I mean, that's one of the reasons we do this, Great Moments in Building History. So, all right, Allan, but it is time to shift gears because we missed this last week and we didn't get to it. But quickly, we want to do our must-have item of the week, and it's already up. I left it up from last week, Allan, but tell people what I'm holding up here.
Well, it is a wire brush, and you're holding the type that can fit onto your drill.
I will say this. It's a really cool tool, but I think the branding, it needs something. It's just called a wire brush for drill.
That's it.
I mean, that's pretty lame. This thing, I mean, it does so much more.
You can have the number 4. That always makes it edgy.
I mean, it's destruction. It's whatever. I mean, give it something edgier than a wire brush for a drill. But, Allan, so if we had to describe this, folks, you've probably seen like car buffers.
Yes.
I mean, it's basically a thing, and it spins, and it buffs the car. Well, don't use this for that. I mean, this is what you want to...
really don't like that car.
This is what you use when the car is rusted out, and you're trying to maybe scrape the rust off. Or even that. I mean, this probably is even harsh for that, right? I mean, but this is destruction, unbridled,
That is 30 years of paint. That is of... welding slag. That is I've even used those to clear furrows. So like on the concrete where it's all been gummed up and stuff's been put in it for 40 years.
Right.
One of those bad boys will flat get it out. But and again, I'm going to point out, that's a very rough looking tool that you have to use with the softest touch.
I was about to say that, Allan. So, folks, I don't think I've described it well. It's basically, if you could imagine, it almost looks like a mushroom. It's got wire bristles that are really hard. They'll poke your finger.
You'll bleed.
And you stick the other end in the drill, and it spins. And but basically, there is a finesse to this. You have to, if you push too hard, it's not good. It gets jammed up. If you push too light, but you get into that magic sweet spot, and it'll take some stuff off. You do have to clean it,
Yes.
And but also definitely wear gloves, goggles, and probably a mask.
Please wear
especially
goggles.
if you're doing
oh my
painting
gosh,
and stuff,
protect your eyes when using that thing.
But the must-have item of the week with a really lame name, a wire brush for a drill. So, hey, ladies, it's been great having you in here. We don't want to run out of time before we also remind everybody how do they take a tour of the Royal Retreat, and how do they learn more?
If you please call 901-644-2220, Lana Candella. Please come in for a tour today.
And KK, will you be at the door welcoming them with
big
a hug?
hugs? Yes.
Okay.
There you
All right,
go.
she's a hugger. I mean, if you watch on the Royal Retreat studio camp, she looks like a hugger. You know how you can just peg some people?
You look at somebody and go, yeah, she's kind of friendly.
But we're looking forward to having you back on and more. And I can't wait to take the tour. So
I gotta drag you over there.
No, I'm excited about that. So, but Allan, what another interesting and unpredictable show. So I really this Eisenhower thing. I actually want to go and learn more about it. I just think it's interesting.
Well, go take a drive down to the Neshoba. There's all kinds of great things to go explore. We'll just leave it at that. We'll
leave it there. But Allan, it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth, our pal Max over there behind the glass, Lana Candella, and KK Newsome, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.